Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. Thank you for joining us. Before we jump in, I wanted to say that we hope that you all are well and taking precautions to stay safe during these days. Hopefully, it will be the end of these days soon. I just want to go over some logistics before we start the webinar. The session is going to be recorded. All lines are muted so that we don't hear any noise and the presenter can do the presentation fine. Please send us your questions on the chat, on the questions box, and we will be answering along the way, or at the end. All right, so without any more delays, I want to introduce you to Seth, our infrastructure DDS technical specialist and trainer. He's an expert in all infrastructure software, AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Maps 3D, InfraWorks, vehicle tracking, etc. And without any other delay, Seth, taking it away.
Thank you very much, Raquel, and hello, everybody. I hope everyone is well. So today's agenda is going to look like this. There's not too much on the side of Civil 3D that's new. There's a lot of stuff with ArcGIS. I'm not going to go over that. There's some stuff with InfraWorks that's also new in 2021. And there's also some stuff between Civil 3D and InfraWorks that I do want to actually show. So I'll actually be showing that. Pipe runs is really the biggest thing. It's about time they added this, but it's long overdue. Basically, you'll see they've updated the pressure network tools to look like they should look in plan and profile sheets. Not so much plan, but mostly profile. And some of the tools they've updated are just fantastic. So they've done a good job. I've noticed playing around with it, it's a little bit buggy with a few things, but they'll fix those. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. The next thing I want to do to fill out the webinar is just some tips and tricks, some Civil 3D, some AutoCAD, but it's all kind of civil related. We'll talk about getting in the average elevation for a floodplain. That's always kind of a common thing. When you need to get, like if you're going to do a floodplain compensation pond, or you kind of want to know what the elevation might be. It's kind of hard to do it on Google Earth, but, and of course, they don't usually give you the elevations, but you need those if you need to, when you need to calculate a compensation pond. If you're doing design, because you can't fill inside the floodplain, you have to create a compensation pond for that. And I want to just talk about, I had to do an overall site layout plan for a water sewer project, and I thought it'd be kind of a nice some neat tips and tricks to show you guys kind of how to do that. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is what they've done with the workflow. Again, I don't know how many of you guys do bridges in InfraWorks. I haven't met too many, but it's a pretty cool workflow as far as you can do a lot of really cool stuff and structures within InfraWorks. And then obviously when you get granular and you want to do your design in Civil 3D, or you want to show that bridge in Civil 3D, they've added some additional tools to make it look really nicely. I don't have a live demo for this, but I have a nice little video basically kind of showing this, and I'll just kind of go through the video here of what they're going to do here. So basically, here we are in InfraWorks, and the bridge is already done, the road's done, and everything. And there's now a nice little tool here where you can actually just select one of your structures, and you go to Publish Civil Structures, and you create a new one. And what it will do is it will create a .imx file, and then you can save that IMX file in the project folder somewhere. And then within Civil 3D, you go to the InfraWorks tab, and basically you grab that model, the IMX file, all right? And of course, if you want to just make sure you're only getting the bridge, what you can do is you can refine your selection right over here in this button here. If you've never used this tool, it's a very nice little tool as far as kind of taking out everything else, because in this case, all you want is the bridge. You already have, let's say, real survey, you have, topo, you have your own alignment, et cetera. In Civil 3D, you don't want everything that InfraWorks will bring in, which is basically the existing ground there and everything else. So you can refine that selection and just grab the bridge, all right? And then, of course, that brings it into your model. Now, it does bring them in. What's really nice now is it actually has this new object type. So right over here on the left side, you'll notice there's a new object type called bridges, okay? And I'll get into the product in a second here, and I'll show you there are some styles that basically kind of control how things will display, all right? But basically what that allows you to do is you can now project that, and in this case, they're going with an example of just picking one piece of the structure and then projecting objects to the profile view, and then basically putting it in there. So that's a nice little workflow. But here's the other really cool part of it is that because what they've done is obviously there might be a change to your bridge or your structure in InfraWorks, because that's where you're going to kind of do the changes. You're not going to do them in Civil 3D, because those are just, that's not where you do it. And so basically what you can do is you can make the changes within InfraWorks. So let's say here we're going to just change the frames, all right? And then what you do is you just simply republish that structure as an IMX file. And here's the cool thing: it actually does recognize IMX files as a reference. So that's the really cool part of this, is that it actually does link these 3D this bridge type, et cetera. So it actually does work very nicely. And of course, once you change it there, it would of course change your profile view and stuff like that. Okay. Again, I'm not, it's a nice little feature if you're doing if you do bridges and stuff like that. That's I don't have a live demo for that one. Let's talk about the pressure networks and just some of the nice things they've done here. Again, they've done a really good job as far as, I think, updating these tools. All right. So what you'll notice here, let me go open up my tool space here real quick, and we'll just turn auto hide off. So that's displaying. All right. So again, here's that bridge. I guess before we go over pressure networks, here's that bridge category. And then in the settings tab, you'll notice that there is a new bridge category right here with styles and settings and all that good stuff. Okay, so just be aware that that is an actual object type that they've now kind of allowed you to control. All right, so in the pressure networks, okay, what's actually, again, this is a really nice kind of functionality what they've added here. If you expand pressure networks now, and I already have an existing one. So let's say, this is actually a real project. This is in Baker County. And basically what I have here is I've got my utility. All right, so this is just a 12-inch water line, just to kind of show it to you in the profile view. This is actually what we have here, 12-inch water line coming across here. All right, and what the purpose of this project is they're doing an industrial park in Baker County with rail and everything, because there's a railroad right over here. And so this is basically a developer is going in here, wants to design a 4-lane road with median. You can kind of see that right over here, okay? And we're going to now attach some utilities to this. So here's a really cool thing. So before this version, what you'd have to do is you'd have to create a totally separate networks, and then you would have to kind of connect them in some sort of way, or just you almost have to really trick it. Basically, you just grab the invert elevation of the, if let's say I had a T over here, I would insert a T, and then I would just grab the invert elevation of that, and then just basically grab the pipe run for this new pipe run, or this new pipe network, pressure network, and then give it the same elevation. You could snap to the insertion point, and at least you'd have it somewhat looking connected, but it was two separate pipe networks. So here's the really nice thing they've done is what they've added. Let me expand pressure networks here, all right, and let me expand water, my water line, and you'll see there's this new category called pipe runs. All right, so what they've done, again, if you've ever done a pressure network like a water line or a gas line or a force main, you kind of realize it's just a horizontal and a vertical. I mean, that's really kind of all it is. And you just want the thickness, the depth of the pipe or the thickness of the pipe to show up in your profile view. And you want it to show up nicely with curves and all that kind of stuff. And that was always a flaw. One of the flaws of the pressure networks was it really couldn't do curves. It could, in my opinion, you'd have to really, trick it to kind of do it, and take some time. And many times actually what I would do for a utility project, I would actually do a corridor model. That sounds kind of crazy, but what it would allow me to do is I would get a depth to my, just a surface, and I would just use that surface profile to display in my plan profile sheets. And it worked really nicely. It was a pretty straightforward workflow. It's not too hard, but it was kind of a pain just to manage all those different models and everything. So now they've kind of fixed that. So basically what you can do here is I'm going to simply, again, as I always say, when in doubt, right click. So if you right click on the pipe run here, I can add a pipe run to the existing one here, okay? And so, of course, I definitely recommend, right off the bat, because if you don't do this, you'll start getting pipe run 1, pipe run 2, etc. Give these names. So this is the name of this road is Woodstock. So I'm going to call this Woodstock, okay? Now this, just so you know, this pipe run here, right down below, is referencing a totally different alignment. This is US 90, all right? I'm going to have a totally other alignment referencing this pipe run. That's the really cool thing. And obviously for those of you who do pipe networks, you're like, well, can we do that with pipe networks? And that was the first, I think they'll eventually get there with this too. It's a similar thing where if you want to attach it to existing, as far as a workflow. But here you basically give it the parts list, and I've got one already defined, the pipe size, the reference surface, and then I want to create a surface profile to view. Sure, I do. And then what's my cover? Now here's the other really cool thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click OK here. And what they've done is they've made horizontal alignments and vertical alignments that talk to your pipes, basically. They attach to the pipe, the pressure network, okay, or the pressure pipes. You'll see this line here in the middle. That's actually an alignment, okay? And so what you want to do, if you want to attach it to an existing run, here's the key thing to remember. And again, for those of you working in 20, I would write this down so you remember this. Just shift right click, and you can draw yourself a line if I wanted to draw a perpendicular line initially first, but I'm just going to draw a nearest here. And you want to snap to the alignment. It actually does matter where you snap to. I've had it act kind of a little buggy where it will not add a branch automatically. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. I'm just going to pop this in here and just do a little run. And then you'll notice here immediately it creates this branch, okay? Now here's the other really cool thing. So I can actually create a disconnected one. So I'll go ahead and right click over here, click add pipe run, and I'll call this Woodstock 2. All right, same thing, new alignment, click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and just draw this one over here, and I'll just kind of punt this over here. Okay, so now I've got that pipe run here. Okay, now this is not connected, but what I can do, I'll go ahead and select this. Now here's the thing you have to remember. Okay, the clicking does matter. So when you select this thing first, you see how that line appeared? What I've actually selected is not the pipe or the pressure pipe. It's actually the alignment. In fact, if I right click now, you'll notice how you get a whole bunch of alignment specific tools. Okay? So if I wanted the actual pressure pipe, I would actually, you just click again. Once you click again, you get the actual pressure pipe. Okay? And you can go to the pressure pipe properties, etc. Now in this case, I do want the alignment. I'll show you why. Because the alignment is what actually controls the way that this pressure network will get displayed. And this is, again, you want to make sure you kind of maintain this connectivity. If it messes up, I have not yet found a way to kind of reconnect it. Maybe there is a way. I'm probably going to email Autodesk just to kind of see, hey, what if you disconnect it? I think you're going to have to redo it. Again, it's kind of easy now to recreate these. It's not a big deal. That's what makes it really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and just select this, and then I'm going to do a shift right click, and I'll do perpendicular, again, to the alignment here. It's got to be over here. Now, I don't have a branch, but here's the cool thing. If you look at the ribbon, right up here, it says Add Branch Fitting. And I'll go ahead and select that, and second one wins. So if I want this one to win, I got to pick this one first, okay? But I want this one to win, so I'll go ahead and pick on this one here, and then I'll select on this one here. And notice how it makes a branch immediately. And, of course, you know, let me just quickly here do a layer freeze. And I'll just do a kind of a crossing window here. I'll just go ahead and take these into the object viewer. And of course, it actually does, you know, really connect these objects. I mean, that's the really cool thing. It's actually doing a really good job. Here's the other really cool thing that I love. This is like one of the best things is that, you know, the cleanup was always kind of a pain. But now with this pipe run, so this, I want to get rid of this one. Let's say I was wrong. It's in the wrong spot. I don't care. What you want to do, I think you can select them and delete them. It still does this, what I'm about to show you. But I recommend you do this. Right-click on the run and choose delete, because by doing that, you'll notice it actually heals the pipe object, the pressure network that was done, that it was attached to. That's fantastic. All right, it doesn't give you a gap, and you have to reconnect it and then draw another one, etc. So it does a really good job. Okay. Here's the other really cool kind of part of this. Okay. Actually, let me back up here. I actually want to show you a couple other really cool things. Let me bring that back in here, because I'm going to show you. I'll use that pressure run or that pipe run to show you some profile tools. So the other really cool thing about this is that, again, as we mentioned, this is an actual alignment now that's linked to this. So if I go ahead and select that and I right click and go to Edit Alignment Geometry, I can go in here and do everything that you would want to do. Now, I've been playing around with it a little bit. I've noticed that the free curve filler tool does not update the actual pressure network. It kind of breaks it. I don't know why yet, but there might be some workflow that you have to do to kind of maintain the linking, all right? But what you can do is I can actually go over here. I'm going to just go ahead and start this just a 2-point alignment here. I'm going to go ahead and just snap to the endpoint here, and then just click over here and press enter. And you'll notice immediately it adds a bend at the closest fitting that could fit. You notice it is off a little bit. I'm not actually at 11.25, so that's my fault. I would fix that, all right? But basically it adds the closest one. And the other really cool thing that is done here is if I go ahead and select that, and then I go ahead and modify this here. Let's go kind of as close perpendicular as I possibly can. It's supposed to, let's see if it does it. It's supposed to update, and it did. It updates the actual fitting. I mean, everyone who does pressure networks should be like jumping for joy right now, which I am, because I've done a couple of water sewer projects, and I went to, like I said, I actually went to core models because this, you couldn't do, I had to update it constantly. It was just such a pain. I just gave up. But basically now this functionality works really, really nicely here, okay? Now, here's the other cool thing. Again, it updates that fitting just for you. This is the part that I really like. So, of course, you're going to have pipe runs that last maybe miles before you even need a fitting. I shouldn't say miles, but, with a few thousand feet. But it can go along an alignment, and it can be curved as long as it doesn't, exceed the deflection angle per the pipe standard, the material and everything that you have. That's fine, but you don't need a fitting. As we all know, if you've done a pressure network, it automatically would add a fitting every time you clicked. Even if you were thinking, no, I don't need a fitting. Let's just make a curve because I'm going around a line. It's just going around, the right of way, and it's at a curve. But it doesn't exceed the deflection angle. I just have straight pipe runs. So that was always kind of a pain. Well, now this actually works really nice. Like I said, I've done a free curve fillet, and it kind of broke. Maybe because the geometry couldn't fit. I haven't really fully tested it. But what does work really nicely here, and this is fine with me, is, you can do floating curves. So I can go over here and say, if I knew the radius, I'd probably maybe just draw some basic geometry to see what my, polyline or my arc was. And then now you can basically go in here and you can pick the object. Let's say I want to go counterclockwise, so we'll go counterclockwise here. I'll do a radius of, let's say my deflection angle per the deflection angle, the radius cannot exceed, let's say 500. So I'll click on that, and then I'll just click once here, and you'll notice that, of course, that actually grabs that curve. And here's the cool thing. It just basically adds, now it does add a fitting, so yes, you can get rid of that and rejoin it. That's fine, and that's okay with me too. It's just the fact that before you couldn't really do curves very easily. Again, it's really nice. So I can just go over here, do the same exact tool, and let's just make a really sharp one. So I'll go over here. Let's I'll go clockwise, and we'll do a curve of let's say 250. That's kind of tight, but it's fine. And I'll just go ahead and click on my curve length here, right? And then again, it will add that fitting initially, but you can get rid of it afterwards. Again, it still maintains that automatically. That's a really nice feature. I absolutely love that. So that's a nice thing that you can now do is, again, you can kind of just lay these out with alignment tools, which it makes a lot more sense. And like I said, I was actually kind of doing this with corridor models instead, but this now works really, really nicely. Okay. Now let's go ahead and focus on, let me actually delete that run now because I'm done with that run. Let's go ahead and just delete that. Again, it will heal the pipe over here. But here's what I want to do. I want to actually go ahead and select on this tool here, so I'm going to click the pipe. I want to display this in my profile view. So again, to do that, I'll click one more time. So again, once gets the alignment, one more time gets you the actual pipe. We'll click Draw Parts in Profile, and then I'll go ahead and I'll click my profile view. Here's the profile view of this alignment. All right. Now that automatically, of course, as is normal, it added in the pressure pipe. Now let's go ahead and change my view. I love this tool. I don't know if you guys use this, but this could be a tip if you haven't. Just two horizontal viewport configuration here. I use this like almost every day, day in and day out, because in one view I want the profile, in the other view I want something else. Again, you can do this with cross-section view, like you're doing with your model design. You put your one view in model, you put your other view in an assembly view or plan view or cross-section view. All right, so the cool thing here is what's nice is they've added these additional tools. All right, so what would be really great is if I could actually have this. Now, just honestly here, you're not going to have it follow the center line of the road. I mean, maybe you will, but typically, you're going to have a profile like be over here, 2 or 3 feet from the right of way, especially if it's a DOT, project or in the DOT right of way. They're going to want to make sure you're as close to the right of way as possible, past the other utilities or whatever. So what you can do is at least just get it initially started, and then what you want to do is you probably already have your horizontal. You're going to lay it out, so you can have it follow that horizontal alignment. And then what you do is you can actually then have it follow follow it vertically and automatically generate it for you. That's the really cool thing. So in the profile view, I just kind of get it started here. I'll go ahead and select this. Actually, I don't have to. I can just pick on this right here. Pipe run profile. All right, so notice how it says, which pipe run do you want? Now, it created that alignment. That's that Woodstock-5 here that I've created, okay? what profile right over here do you want it to follow? I want it to actually follow Woodstock. So again, you can pick a profile that it will follow. It can be whatever you want. Again, this is a road, but it can follow a profile that you've designed within the actual alignment, right, for the actual profile itself. I actually want to grab the existing profile view, all right, and I'll go ahead and click, because you can create a new one, and have it update dynamically 3 feet below. So if I click OK here, notice how it creates that automatically for me, and then I'll pick the profile view. So this in of itself, this is the really cool thing, it's already a dynamic profile. If I go ahead and pick on this profile and I adjust it, it maintains 3 feet no matter what. So that in itself is really cool, okay? So forget the pipe run stuff, just having a profile for that is actually really nicely, okay? But here's the other really cool thing. So if I go ahead and just select this here, I'm going to pick my pipe run, and I go ahead and click on this here, and I drag this out here. Notice how it automatically will try and calculate and basically figure out the 3-foot depth following that profile automatically. Now I'm curious here. I want to go ahead and just keep going here. I haven't tested this, but we'll see how well I get. Let's go into that part there. Okay, so it actually does its best, but of course it can't, probably based upon my deflection, etc. I probably have to add some additional, split it or whatever, break it apart and just, put it up there to do that. But again, that's the cool thing, is that what it should happen, if we do this correctly here, is that this should link to this here. Let's see what it does. There we go. So it's doing some, again, it gets you pretty well. It's doing pretty good. I'd have to probably split it, but again, it would still maintain that linking to the profile. All right. I could add curves. Actually, that's what you want to do. I just realized that is you'd probably go in here. I think you just basically modify this. So I can go in here and edit the profile geometry and start modifying this, and it should link to the that one there. Let's see if I'm right. So I'll just start deleting some stuff here. I don't need the PIs here. Let's say, and now if I were to add, I don't know, I kind of have a funky profile here, but this should be able to link here. If I go ahead and just pick on this here and maintain that, well, that should, actually, that's the wrong one. Let's pick this one here. Let's see what that does here. Whoops, too far up. Oh, that actually broke it. Okay, that was a bad idea. I was wrong. I'll have to look into that more. So it obviously is linked to the horizontal. So I'd have to do this one here. So this would obviously be a you want to make sure that profile is the one that you link it to. So anyway, they've improved the tools quite a bit. All right. Now, can they be broken? Like I said, it looks like in some cases it might be able to, but again, once we kind of learn these tools and they work out all the bugs and fixes, it's all new as with anything Civil 3D. They'll work out the quirks and it'll work really, really nicely. Again, it's 1,000 times better than what it used to be as far as doing them from before. Okay, so again, those pipe runs are just really, really useful. Again, you can just have one, and then you simply right-click here, and it can be from objects, from parts, you name it. It can be all kind of linked in that sort of way. All right. All right. So the next thing I wanted to, again, any questions at any time, just feel free to type into the chat panel, and we'll answer them afterwards, or we can do them now if we have time. We'll just do them afterwards. I think it's probably the best bet. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you was getting a floodplain. Let's make sure I'm kind of staying on my agenda here. Getting the average elevation of a floodplain, right? So what I mean by that is, let me go to Google Earth here, just to kind of show you what I have. So here's this project. As you can see, there's we're actually redesigning this road here, okay? And through this road, as you can see, is a big, huge floodplain. So for those of you not familiar with this, I hope you're somewhat familiar with it if you're in engineering, but if you're designing the floodplain, whatever kind of project it is, it could be a site job, you're doing a mall, you're doing a road, it doesn't matter. Water management requires that you check the floodplain to see if you need to define or create a floodplain compensation pond. And it's not a pond that needs to have water quality or anything like that. It is literally a pond that you're just digging out the earth. The way I like to explain it to people who've never heard of this functionality or never heard of this process is, imagine you have a cup full of ice or a cup full of water, right? You put ice in that water, what happens? It fills over. Well, the same thing happens here. You're adding more dirt to the floodplain. Or it's possible you're adding dirt. You don't know that for sure. You have to know the elevation of your floodplain to see if your job is actually adding dirt. Because if you're above the floodplain elevation, let's say your project's above it, you're not adding any additional dirt that would already be there in the first place. But if you're below the floodplain, then you need to compensate for that with just a pond. It just digs out the dirt, and basically that way when this area floods, right, the water that you are, or the volume of dirt that you're adding to the area can be compensated with the pond. And again, it's not really a pond because it's going to be dry almost the whole time until a 100-year flood happens. And basically it'll be dry until, and then basically that water will just fill up into the pond and it won't overflow anywhere else. Okay. So again, the key thing with these ponds, for those who've never done it, and I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here, is the pond cannot go below seasonal high water table. Obviously, it makes no sense. If you're going below seasonal high water table, then you're not compensating, right? So you basically, these ponds are usually pretty shallow, a foot, 2 foot. I shouldn't say that. It depends on your soil type. Depends on where you are in the state of Florida. In Gainesville, you can have a paint, where, but basically in like Hamilton County, northern Florida, water table is like about a foot to a foot and a half in many places. So you cannot have a pond deeper than 1 to 2 feet. Okay. So that's basically, kind of how this does. So anyway, so I have this. So here's my this is an overall view of the floodplain. I've got a bunch of these in little spots here. And what I did was I've got the shape actually in CAD, all right, as you can see here. But the goal, the goal is, what is my actual elevation? Because I got to figure out how much cubic yards I'm going to need, if I even need it. Again, if I'm above the floodplain, you're already above it, you don't need it. But if your job is below the floodplain, okay, here's the thing. If your job is below the floodplain and you're filling in those areas, that means, burrow, then you need a compensation pod. If your job is in the floodplain and you're literally cutting out the earth, they don't care. It's fine. You're actually creating more room for water to be stored in that floodplain area. Okay, so that's why this is a pretty critical kind of thing you have to do, because basically, if you need a floodplain compensation pond, you may have to get right away. And here's the thing: your pond has to be touching some area where this floodplain actually is. You can see right here, for this project, we're actually acquiring a little bit of right away because we needed a floodplain compensation pond. Turns out we were actually inside the floodplain, below that elevation, and we were filling. It wasn't actually that much. I think it's about 100 cubic yards, so it wasn't too much. But so we acquired some additional right away. We are literally putting a hole in the earth. That's it. That's all we needed. So here's this line. All right. So I wanted to show you a couple of tricks to basically, how do I get the average elevation? Because in theory, the elevation across this entire shape is the same elevation. That's in theory. Now, to get that, now, of course, you can, get these shapes, and then basically you bring them into CAD, and, if you want to know how to do it, I can explain that. But for now, I just want to show this tip. So I have the shape here. Now, when you get the shape, sometimes you'll have a whole bunch of extra vertices. I have an example here I want to show you, like, do I really need all of these here, or this point here, or this? This could pretty much be a straight line. It's a floodplain area. We don't have to go crazy. So the first tip I'll show you is, and I may have shown this in other webinars, but I like to just show it again, is the map cleanup tool. A lot of people just don't really use it. Just type map clean, okay? So I'll type map clean, all right? Now I don't want the whole drawing, so I'm gonna make sure that I actually pick just the object that I want. So I'll go ahead and click on this here manually, and I'll pick my polyline. That's all it is, just a polyline, all right? We'll go ahead and click next. And then basically what I want to do is I want to add in, let me get this out of the way, so that little tooltip's out of the way. I want to add in the function for weed polyline. So I'll click add here. And then what you can do, and you don't want to have supplementing, that adds vertices based upon the distance you type in here. We don't want to do that. We want to remove vertices. You want to clean this file up, because what we're going to do is, for this project, I actually have, again, I'm lucky that the projects that I work on, Water Management provides LiDAR for us, and we have LiDAR for the entire area for almost every project that we work on. And so basically we can just grab LiDAR, and what I'm going to do is, again, in theory, I'm going to basically take this polyline and I'm going to drape it along the surface, and then basically I'm going to get an average elevation. All right. So, but I want to weed out these. I don't need that many vertices. So obviously you don't want to do too many vertices because it might crash CAD. Actually, let's be honest. So what you want to do here is you can actually, if you increase the volume, you saw those grips. I had a bunch of grips, here, et cetera, and it's just unnecessary. So I'm going to increase this to basically this distance has to be greater than the supplementing factor. So I'm going to do like 85. That's fine. Will you possibly remove a vertex that you may or may not need? I don't think so. Not for a floodplain line. Again, it's going to be close enough for what we want to do. So I'll just go ahead and click on Finish, and basically what it'll say right here, if you look, it says, you know, one object modified. But if I basically select this, you'll notice it got rid of all these extra vertices that's just unnecessary. You know, that's fine. There was two here, one there. I didn't need it. It's unnecessary, right? So that kind of cleans up the polyline. All right, so the next thing you want to do is you just basically go to, you know, feature line, create feature line from objects. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and select that polyline. Press enter, and don't put it into a site. You don't want it to talk to any other feature lines. It doesn't need to be. This is just to get an average elevation because that's my floodplain elevation. Basically, it's the average elevation as it goes along a surface. All right, and so I'll just pick generic feature. I don't really care. I do want to, actually, I'm going to keep the existing one, but I want to assign elevations. I'll click OK here. And then again, I have, you know, existing ground, but I also have LiDAR. Again, you may or may not have this. What you can do, this is definitely a possibility. You can use Model Builder in InfraWorks. As long as you have the AEC collection, you'll have access to this. You can get the USGS contours, just basically do an area of your project, just do a rectangle, and then bring that surface in from InfraWorks. Okay, that's a little trick. This is more accurate because it's LiDAR, they actually fly it, but the LiDAR data will give you just enough, it'll be fine as well, okay? So we'll go ahead and click on my surface that I have here. I do not, I repeat, do not insert intermediate grade breakpoints.
No, Sandra,
this is a huge floodplain area.
I don't see it.
What's that?
Sorry,
was there a question, Raquel? Or?
It looks like yes, but we can answer it later on.
Okay. All right. So basically, this is a really big surface. And the thing about LiDAR, it's every like 10 feet, they basically locate a point, and that's huge. So the surface is really big. We do not want intermediate grade breakpoints. It's going to be close enough to just get the vertices. So I'm going to toggle that off, click OK here. And here's my feature line. So what I can do is I can now select that feature line. It's going to be a little slow because there's a lot of vertices in this thing. All right. And what I can go is to my elevation editor. All right, that will open up in the panorama. Again, you can kind of see it's chugging along. But so I've got all the elevations here. All right, it looks like there were some at 0, so I'm going to ignore those. Actually, they should all be covered. That's okay. We'll just use the ones that I have. I'll delete the 0 elevations. All right, so I've got all the elevations here, right? So that's great, but now how do I actually get that into a way that I can actually use it to get an average? I'm not going to type in every single one of the elevations and then divide by the amount, right? We all know how to do averages. I'm not going to explain how to do that. But if you right-click here, if you're not familiar with this, this is a standard Civil 3D thing. You can right-click on any grid-type view and click Copy All. All right, I'm going to open up Excel. I have a little shortcut to Excel. It should open up here. Just hit Control-Alt-X. Create a brand new workbook, Control-V. See how it grabbed every single line here. I'm going to go ahead and basically delete, the first 3 columns. I don't need those. And I don't need the lengths or anything else. And I'm going to delete the top one as well. Right, so I'm left with this. Now, I can't get the average because there's this little foot mark in here. So what I'll do is this is an Excel tip, not a Civil 3D tip. Actually, this is just basically an Office tip. This works in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you name it. Control-H is find and replace. Again, when you learn CAD back in 1990-something, you become a keyboard shortcut guru for everything because that's how you use CAD, was just with shortcuts. So I'm going to find that apostrophe, and I want to replace it with nothing. I'll hit replace all, and it got rid of them. Now, I am noticing that I have some 0 elevations. I don't need those because basically the floodplain wasn't in those areas, and that's okay. So this will be enough to get me an average. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually sort this data. I'll just go ahead and click the column here. I'll go to the data column, and I'll go ahead and click on sort, like so. And then what I'll do is I will basically delete all the 0 elevation ranges here. I could probably get the LiDAR, but I don't really care. That's good enough. Whoops, let me do that again. Control-Shift, Home, right-click, delete. All right, so now I'm stuck with 694 rows. That should be enough of an average. So all you do, for those of you that don't know, Excel does this for you. You just basically go to the Home tab here and click where it sums. There's an average option. Just click that, enter. My average elevation as it falls across that floodplain is 99.2. So that would be the floodplain elevation, and then I would do my calculations, okay? Again, any questions you can type in the chat panel, we'll answer them afterwards, okay? All right, so that's just a little trick to kind of getting the floodplain elevation, all right? All right, moving right along here. The next thing I want to show you is just some tips on developing an overall site layout sheet. So let me show you what this project looks like in the first place. You can see the completed product. All right, so right here is my project. So this is what I want to focus on here. So I have these 5. So this is basically for the contractor or you know, whomever is bidding on the project, whatever, to get an overall view, overall idea of how this project is designed, right? We have a water treatment site right here. We have a counter road 136 over here. So this overall site layout is 5 sheets. First sheet here, notice how I've got a nice aerial. It's just basically showing the exact what this is. It's 12-inch water main, what this side road is, what this here is. I also basically wanted to show the names of basically where these plan and profile sheets were going to be. So this is county road 136, 31st Road. Notice how we got a nice little locus map here. Sheet number 3. Notice how we're crossing I-75, so we got that DOT permitted. We have a 4-inch force main. We have some lift stations, all other kinds of stuff here. But you know, I was just kind of going through it to realize, and you know, this can be kind of a pain. This is a manual process, so you want to know kind of the best ways to create this. Okay, so I have 5 sheets here, and basically, if you look at the finished product, we have an overall layout. We have a site, kind of a locus map here, and of course, some things are turned on and off here, some things are turned on or off here, etc. So how do you create this? How do you do this in CAD? And is there an easy way to do it, or is it all manual? All right, so let me just show you some tricks in kind of getting that done. All right, so let me just show you the finished product here, actually, as it exists in CAD. All right, so here's the actual finished product, right? This is a viewport. This is a viewport. Got some labels and a north arrow, and that's basically it. So how did I create this exactly? And here's the other kind of question that a lot of people ask is, well, that's great that you show me the area, but how do I know where they abut? Because these are like manually kind of placed. How do I actually kind of place those quote unquote viewports manually? You know, with a plan and profile sheet, you have the view frame. You have view frames that you can create, but this doesn't follow an alignment, and I'm not going to do that to do this kind of sheets. So here's what I want to do. All right, so here's some tricks to kind of getting this done. All right, the first thing I want to do is I want to actually let me go into one of the existing ones here actually. And I want to trace a rectangle. So this is in paper space, right? So this is a 1-to-1 scale. This is a 24 by 36 piece of paper. And basically, this is my viewport. I'm going to actually draw a rectangle, and let me put it on a no plot layer because we don't want this to plot. All right, so I'll just go to my G-ANO layer and viewport right here. And I'm just going to start the rectangle command. I'm going to snap here. I don't know this area. I don't know what the actual is, but I don't need to. I'm going to actually grab this shape here, and I'm going to go ahead and just going to pop it in there, and I'll go ahead and select this. And there's my shape. Let's make sure I got the right one. And I'm going to do a Control-C, right? So that copies it to my clipboard. Then I'm going to go to model space, all right? I'm going to do a Control-V, right? That brings it into model space at the 1-to-1 scale. This is 24 by 36. Well, it's actually not. It's actually just the size of the viewport, whatever that size is. In this case, if I select it and hover, it's some odd value because that's what fits for my sheet. That's just how this sheet is designed. That's how we've been doing projects. So here's the thing. Here's the next kind of trick that you want to do. What scale am I plotting at? Well, in general, I kind of figured that out. That let me just double click inside one. I want to plot at a 1 inch equals 100-foot scale. So what do? I'm going to scale this rectangle, this polyline, by, yes, you should say 100, just 100. So that gets me, that's the size that I need to cover for these sheets of paper. So I will then basically move this first one around to kind of in the area that I want to go. So I'll say, okay, that one's right there. That's good enough for me. Then I'm going to copy this around into what I feel the areas that I want to have. So let me turn off snapping temporarily here and turn off polar tracking. I don't need those right now. And I want some overlap, but not a lot. Don't need that much. So I'll kind of go over here. Again, these are just kind of overall layouts. Then I've got the project going over here, crossing 75. Let's kind of put it over here. That's 3. And then I've got this one over here. So this goes to the end of the job, maybe like over here. That's good. And then my final one's going to be like over here for the 5th one. So I have copied around the size of rectangle at a scale of 1 inch equals 100. And now here's the next trick. So you should be asking, that's great, Seth, but how do I get that exactly in my sheet of paper? You could manually do it, but you wouldn't get exactly, and it'd be kind of it would be kind of messed up. It's not that easy to do it that way if you do it manually. But there's a really fast and easy way to do this. Just type V spacebar. That opens up View Manager. Now you can see I've already done a couple. I'm going to do them again. In fact, let's just go ahead and let me delete these just so you don't see nothing up my sleeve. All right, so we'll go ahead and click on New. And this what the View Manager does is it allows you to create basically snapshots of a specific area. It also saves the layer snapshots as well. So if you do a layer freeze, thaw, etc., the second you restore this view, it restores the layers that were on, off, frozen, thawed, etc., inside the viewport. This also works in model space too. It just works in general, okay? But we're going to leverage this functionality to do this in paper space, all right, or the layout. So we're going to call this one number 1. And what I want to do is actually do this. You don't want to just guess. You want to click Define Window. Here's the crucial thing. I'm going to go ahead and snap, excuse me, to that corner there and that corner there. Press Enter. All right, and then click OK. Now I have View 1. Let's just do one more. We'll do New. Call this number 2. Define Window. Again, snap to the endpoint of, whoops, let's see, Shift right click E for endpoint, snap here, and that's going to here. Press Enter. Click OK. I now have 2 viewports. Sorry, not 2 viewports, 2 named views. And here, just to show you, you can use this in CAD and Model Space. If you go to the View tab and go to the Named Views panel, click this drop down right here, you'll notice here are the named views. If I click on 2, there's 2. If I click on 1, there's 1. What it's doing in the background, without you realizing it, it's actually saving, it's restoring the layer snapshot that was there when I created the viewport. All right, or the named view, sorry. So this is the great thing now. So now what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my template layout here. This is an empty layout, okay? I'm going to go ahead and copy this. A little trick here, hold the Control key down. Click on this layout and just drag it where you want it. I now have a copy of that layout. All right, we'll make that active, double click it, change it to number 1. I would eventually add it to Sheet Set Manager, but for now we're not going to do that, okay? So here's the cool thing. Now, in the old days, I don't want to say old, but before version, I think it was 2019 actually, or 2018 maybe, if you go to the Layout Tools tab up here, right up here, okay, they didn't have this functionality. What you'd have to do is you'd have to create a viewport, and then what you would do is you go to the View tab, and you would go into that viewport, and you would restore your view, and it would come in. But now, with this really nice functionality, just click Layout Tools, click Insert View, notice what's right here. That's really cool. Click on 1, and then what it does is it's going to create a viewport at that location with the saved layer snapshot. That's cool, all right? I'll go ahead and just put it anywhere. It doesn't really matter right now. Looks kind of silly. Just do a Region All, REA. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move this. I use grip editing, so I'm going to go ahead and pick on this grip here. Right-click, Move. And I'm going to move it to my spot, which is the midpoint right here. Okay? Now that's in place. So here's the really cool thing about this. Because I actually created a shape that's a 100 scaled viewport, right? Or 100 scale viewport at that shape, guess what it did? If I go ahead and double click inside here, notice how the viewport is already set at 1 inch equals 100. That's pretty cool. So if your scale was 1 inch equals 50, you just scale up that rectangle by 50, and you now have, it'll do the same exact thing. So that's really, really cool. And it locks it automatically, which is really nice, okay? So how do I actually get that next thing? The next thing I want is, as you see here in these sheets, right, is I have in each of the views, I want the contractor to know where they are in the job, right? There's number 1, there's number 2, there's number 3, number 4, and number 5, right? I want them to see where they are in the overall project so they have an idea. They don't keep going back and forth. They kind of know where they are, okay? So I call that like the locus viewport. So what you want to do, now, if you're in regular AutoCAD, this does work. You should be able to actually select this at right-click, and there should be a Viewport Clip option here, but it's not in Civil 3D. I swear it's in Civil 3D 2018. I swear it's there, and maybe they accidentally got rid of it. But it's not a big deal, all right? What you want to do is, all you have to do is simply type in the command vclip. All right? vclip. Is it vclip? Viewport. Okay, that was, let's see, clip, viewport. All right, it's clip, I guess. Clip, that worked. Okay. So click on that. And then what you want to do is, when you don't know what to do, as I always say, look to the command line window. Select clipping object or polygonal. I'm going to create a polygon. Actually, let me back up. I forgot. I need to know my shape that I wanted. So the shape that I wanted, I'm just going to, actually, this I do want it to be on a layer because I want it to actually plot, is I want a rectangle, and I think I want it to be 8 by, actually, you know what? I'm not going to guess here. Let me just grab the shape here real quickly and see what size it is. What I figured out was the good size. 8 by 4. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So we'll go over here. I'll just start the rectangle command, REC. I'll just grab the midpoint for now. We can always move it around afterwards. And again, if you're not using dynamic input, you should be. It's right over here. I know some people hate it. It pops up all these stuff, but when you learn how to work with it, it saves you a tremendous amount of time. I can almost guarantee you it could save you like a total of like 3 hours per week of work. I'm not kidding you. And it's just easy. So right here, that's on. I can now just type in 8, 4 over 8 up 4, right? And there's my rectangle. I'm done. So the reason I'm doing that is that A, I want this to plot, and B, I actually want to have an error. I want some snaps that I can actually kind of clip this around. So we'll go ahead and click on, so I'll just type in clip here. And we'll go ahead and pick our viewport. And I'll pick polygonal, and I'll just start at the lower left corner here. Let me turn my snaps on now. We're good. And we'll just pick here, kind of going around the viewport. And go down here. And again, making sure now I go around this one here. So I'll go down here. And then I want to close this. Again, when you don't know what to do, everyone should be saying this in their brains by now. Look to the command line window. Specify next point or arc, close, length, undo. So guess what? See, spacebar, it's now closed. I have clipped out that area. Now what I want to do is now I want to create a viewport that's actually at this size. So I'll just go ahead and snap here, and I'll snap here. And now I've got that viewport. Now, does it have to be in this actual scale? No, in fact, in this case, I don't really care about scale. I just want it to fit nicely. But before I do that, let me just quickly go inside here. I'm going to lock my viewport, and I want to do a VP freeze, right? For those of you that don't know this, I hope you know this by now, but if you don't, if you click on layer freeze and you click on stuff, it just freezes it in the active viewport. That's it. So that's basically what that does. So I'm going to freeze that. Let's freeze this. These are scale dependent objects. And then just to kind of see, make sure everything looks correct before I kind of finish that, I always do a print preview here real quickly, just to kind of see, okay, is it getting exactly what I want? Maybe I'll freeze that there. Do I need that one? It's just an overall view. That's all I want them to see in this viewport, is just an overall view of the actual kind of waterline and force main. So I will go ahead and freeze this one. So now that's frozen. And what is this right here? That is some text. So actually, that's probably on layer 0. I'd have to go into that. I'm not going to worry about that, but I'd go into that reference file. That's why you should never put anything on layer 0, for those of you that don't know that, except for stuff for blocks. All right. So now I've done that. Now, what's really great is this. I now have, so let me actually double click inside here. I'm going to unlock the viewport. And I don't really care about this scale. It means nothing to me, but I will just go to the zoom window command to tighten this up as tight as possible. I don't need everything, but I want it to be zoomed in a good amount. And then I will lock the viewport. Again, I don't care about that scale. Now, what I want to do though is as I mentioned here, I want to actually have an area that, it shows hatching, and so the contractor knows kind of exactly where this is. Well, guess what? The reason I drew those rectangles at a no plot, basically a no plot layer, is I can now actually do it in here. Let me change my layer to a plottable layer. And now I will just draw a rectangle. I'm in paper space now. So this is not going in model space. I'm going to go ahead and snap to those spots. And now if I do a print preview real quickly, I now have an area that will actually plot. And if I want that thicker, I could change the line weight or the color, whatever I want that to be. That's fine. In this case, we'll just go with it. And here's what I want to do. I now want to hatch this. So I'll just type the hatch command. We'll change my option to select. And we want to pick on this one. And I want to scale of, let's try 2, see what that gets us. And I'll just go ahead and pick that polyline. And I'll just do a quick little print preview just to see if that looks kind of good. Looks good to me. And the only thing I'm missing is the text. So I'll just go in here. The same layer is fine with me. I'll just type T space bar. And I'll just I can put this anywhere I want for now. I'll just do here. And I want this to be number 1. And let's make this a spacing of nothing. Right? I don't want a width of anything. And I will go ahead and select this and go to my properties real quickly. And we'll set this to center, middle center. And we'll change this to a background mask of yes, use the background color, click OK. And then now I can just pop this. Now I want this at the center of this here. So there's a couple ways. For those of you that don't use tracking, if you have O tracking turned on, you can track that way, you can track this way, and see how that works right there. Or you can simply turn on temporarily, I don't like it on for the whole time, geometric center. If I turn that on, I hover over this object, it appears, there's my geometric center. That'll work with any object type, not rectangle, it'll be on any kind of polyline, all right? Let me turn that off because when it's on, it does kind of get in the way, that geometric center snap, but it's still nice to use every now and then, okay? And there's my completed sheet. Again, it took a little bit of time, but just because I'm explaining it, but it takes no time at all. I would create 5 named views and then just copy this sheet, and then I would literally just restore the view. That's it. That's all I got to do. In fact, just to show that to you, because it's really not hard, is I'll go over here and I'll go ahead and just copy this. I'll hold the control key down, drag this. We'll click on this, drag. Now I have another viewport. Let's make that active. I'll type number 2. And although before I used the insert view option right here, you don't have to do that here. In this case, I'm going to double click inside this, unlock the viewport, and change this right here. Go to the view tab and click 2. I'm done. That's how simple this is. This is why you create the name views. It's so easy. It's ridiculous. And so now, as long as I'm ready to go, I'll just lock it. And I also did a VP freeze and everything. I'm good to go. And basically now all I have to do is go into my paper space and I will just copy this from here to now. I'm sorry, not copy, move. What am I thinking? Move this from here to this viewport here, right? And then simply double click, right? Make sure you're actually on the text. Whoops, I'm in the viewport now, I think. If I remember correctly, let's see. Yeah, right. And then just obviously just change this to, come on. You get the idea. I'm not going to bother but you would just change it to number 2, right? You can do it here. I could also select this here and just change this to 2. That's another way to do it as well. You can just click here or click edit. That works as well, right? And then 2. And we're done, right? How easy was that? Again, the name views just save you a tremendous amount of time, okay? All right, I am noticing that it is 2:54. Any questions?
Yes, we have some questions.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question is there a pipe run for gravity systems, like connecting to a structure on a different network?
Yeah, no, that's what at the beginning, that's what I said. They need to create that. That's what I was getting at, is that I completely agree. Is how this works now is exactly how I want the gravity networks to work as well. So that is not there yet, but obviously you can imagine that's going to happen in the next version or whatever. So yes, yeah, but it's not there now.
It's not there now. Okay, Gustav, if you have any other questions about it, let us know. Another question is, will the bridge data show up in cross sections?
Good question. No, it will not. They've only added it for profiles for now. The style only applies to profiles, but eventually they'll add it to cross sections as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. All right. How do you calculate the volume necessary for the compensation pond?
Okay, so that's a little more involved than we have time to show, but I'll just kind of briefly explain what you can do, because I've actually done that in this file right here. So, and you're going to see here, it's a little bit heavily involved, but I'll just briefly explain it. So there's a lot of surfaces here, as you can see, right? Basically what the point is this: once you find that elevation, all right, it was 99.4, whatever, 99.2, whatever it was, you then create a surface of, just make a rectangle. I'm sorry, not a rectangle. You make a surface of the elevation of that floodplain at 99.4. That's just a real quick and easy surface. Then what you do is you then need to create then you need to actually calculate a volume surface between your proposed surface, whatever that is, and the volume and that 99.4. Then what you do is you need to get the zero elevation, because the zero elevation is the elevation that you need to get that basically shows where it goes below the elevation of 99.2, right? Because if it's above it, you don't care. So anything below below the zero elevation is basically the line work, that is your area. Then what you do is you create a shape and you create a boundary of that surface and you create a volume surface of your proposed. You compare it with that one there. So you can see here I've done that kind of, so I have 3 compensation areas. So basically I created one for the first one here, that one surface, right? Then I created a clipped area of the zero elevation surface. That's this one right here. And then this one right here is the actual volume for that surface between the clipped and the existing ground. And if you have fill, that's what you have to compensate for. I know it's like, again, maybe for a future webinar, we can do that. I can show that workflow.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds like a plan. There's another question. Hi, Seth. Can we also use CH space command for taking our rectangle done by Viewport contour, our model with same size?
Please say that again.
Okay, I'm reading just exactly like they wrote it. Hi, Seth.
I figured.
We can also use CH space command for taking our rectangle done by Viewport contour, our model with same size. So I don't know if he's saying it or he's asking it.
Well, the CH command is just change properties, but
we can also use CH space command for taking our rectangle done by Viewport contour, our model with same size. I guess he's staying that. He's not asking.
Well, yeah, no, well, yes, you can. Oh, yeah, you can. You can take, I mean, it's like if I'm understanding it correctly, is basically, here's the CH command is just going to the properties palette. So that's just right here. And if you're saying change the elevation, you can change the elevation right there. I don't know if that's what he's asking or not, but yes, you can change the elevation right here if that's what he's asking. Again, you can, oh, it's right here. Okay, here we go. Hi, Seth, can we also use CH space command for taking our rectangle done by Viewport contour? Viewport contour.
Done by Viewport contour, our model with same size.
I'm looking at the question now because I see it now. Yep. If you could elaborate a little bit, I don't exactly understand the command. I'm sorry, the question. Sorry.
All right, Ismael. If he hasn't answered your question correctly, then please give us another insight about the question. There's another question. How did you get the floodplain shapes into the drawing? How did you get it to show up on Google Earth?
Oh, okay. Yep, that's a good question. So on Google Earth, the first thing is just all you have to do is just Google you can get the KML file from I believe it's DEP or NFHL. I forgot, National Flood Zone. Yeah, just FEMA. Sorry, FEMA. The FEMA map. Just type FEMA Google floodplain, and you'll find the Google. And this is a live thing, so as you pan around, it'll actually update. That's the first thing. Now, as far as getting the shape, it depends. If you go to FEMA, does allow you to download some shapes, but they get really, really big. So you can use Map 3D to bring them in. Or you can, what I find works a little better, and I think that's what I did with this one. This is just Hamilton County, so it's a little smaller. But basically, I use the map import functionality. because once I downloaded the shapefile, I could then import them. And that seems to work better. You actually get CAD graphics, and then I can do stuff with it. So that's basically what I would do. Now, sometimes if I have a really small project, and let's say my job was just in this area here, honestly, what I would do is I would just draw a KML. I would actually just draw it in here. I would just do a polygon. So I'm in Google Earth now. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I'll just explain to you in a second. I've shown this in a previous podcast, or not podcast, previous webinar. But I would just trace this here, whatever you want for a shape. Again, you don't have to be super accurate. It doesn't really matter. It's a floodplain. So I'll get here, get there, etc. And then what I would do is I would then save it, and I would call this floodplain 1, whatever. It appears down here in your temporary places, I believe. Yep, there it is right there. I right-click on this. Whoops, hello. Come on, Google. Right-click here, and then I would save place as. I would actually save this as a KML file, not a KMZ, KML. So save as KML, all right? And then what you do, I've shown, again, like I said, I mentioned this in a previous webinar, is there is this product called, let me get rid of this here. Where are we? OGR2 GUI 64. So if I go into this folder here, you'll see, and if I run this utility is fantastic. It lets you convert any GIS data to any other format. So I would basically I would take that KML file and I would convert it to a shapefile, and then CAD can read shapefiles. The CAD can't read KML files. So you have to just do the conversion.
Thank you, Seth. The same person that asked the question about the CH space command and all that, he wrote again, in the paper space, you can do the rectangle in the viewport and bring this our model space.
Well, okay, so he's talking about change space, CH space, yes. So that command will work, but the fact that if you have your viewport and you draw right on top of it, I don't know, it actually is not going to matter. You're still going to need to scale it up, So basically, again, this workflow, I don't know where I want to plot. I know what he's asking now. I don't know where I want to plot, so I would just bring that rectangle into CAD and then move it around because I'm defining where I want to plot with the view. But yes, in theory, you should be able to trace a viewport and do CH space. In fact, let's check it, because here's the only problem with that. I know if we're going over a little bit and you have to leave, I apologize, but let me just go. This won't take too long. I'm thinking it won't work because the viewport is in the same exact spot as paper space. So I don't know if it'll be able to find it, but let's just try. So if we do a rectangle right now, and I'll just snap here. Whoops. Let's snap here. And snap here. And CH space. And we'll pick that viewport. And let's see if that worked. I probably should have put on a different layer too, shouldn't I? So I'm on sheet 2 now. Let's go here, and I should have 2 on top of each other. And it looks like I do. So that does work, yes. So if you do have an area and you want to define it that way, you could do CH space that way as well. But if you're going to do it that way, it's going to be kind of harder to see. That's why, because you're doing an overall site layout, you don't know where you are when you have just that viewport open. Again, you can do whatever you want, but I like to lay it out here because I can see where what areas I'm missing, and if they actually are missing, and then I just basically use the view command. But that does seem to work. So.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Seth. To everybody that have asked questions, because we have several ones asking if the webinar is going to be recorded and shared. Yes, the webinar was recorded, and we will share it and send it to you guys within 24 hours. So, Seth, thank you so much. I don't have any more questions online. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Seth, for a great presentation. As usual, you feel free to write us any questions you can call us at 305-445-6480, or you could email us at info@ddscat.com, or you can call us, some of you know us very well, and we could get the answers that you need. Feel free to email us any topics that you would like to be addressed in the future webinars, and it would be great for us to evaluate that for our future presentations. So again, thank you everybody for joining us today. Be safe and be well. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.